Well, good morning, everyone. We might give a start now. I know there'll still be some people that will be coming in to the session, but we are conscious that we don't want to waste any time. We've got quite a lot to get through, and I know Danny's got a terrific presentation to share with all of you that will be incredibly useful as we start on our steps of reopening from 6 o'clock tomorrow. So first of all, can I begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands on which we all gather here today and pay my respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. I just want to go through as well before we start just a couple of key housekeeping points, which many of you will be aware of as you've joined in these sessions before. Your microphone has been muted and your camera is turned off, so you don't need to worry about doing that today. It's already taken care of when you enter the platform. Can I please ask that if you have any questions today, would you make sure that you lodge them in the Q&A box? I know we've got a chat box as well, but we like to keep all the questions in Q&A so that we can make sure that we don't miss anything, and I'm not trying to jump between the two platforms to find questions. So all questions in Q&A, thank you. And lastly, just want to make sure that everyone is aware that the session is being recorded today. We will be sending a recording of the session out to all of our participants, and we will actually post it into our VTIC support hub as well. So you'll have a chance also to refer back to it if you don't catch everything today. I also want to acknowledge today our partners in bringing this event to you, the Victorian State Government. It's been fantastic that as a consequence of a grant that we've received from the Victorian State Government, in particular through the Department of Jobs, Precincts and Regions, that VTIC is able to bring this whole reopening series to all of the industry, not just our members, but to all the industry. And we're able to do this at no charge. So it's been a huge bonus for us to be able to bring this important information to the industry right now. And just want to acknowledge our partners in the state government with that. So today we are being we're very, very fortunate is what I'm trying to say, to have Danielle Hose with us. We call her Danny. So I just kind of almost slipped into that, Dan. But Danielle is actually our workplace wellbeing consultant. And again, through a partnership that many associations like ours have with the state government, we've been able to align with partners in wellbeing. And it's been magnificent because it's meant over the last many months of the pandemic that Danny has actually operated as a part of the VTIC team. So even though she's here with us as partners in wellbeing, she's actually operated as part of the VTIC team. She's been here and she's worked very closely with us and with all of our members over the last many months. So we're really, really thrilled that we could have Danny here today with us. And just by way of background, just to give you a bit of information, Danny is currently working as a mental health clinician and consultant, as I said, for VTIC, with an organization called EACH, which is the Eastern Access Community Health, and of course Partners in Wellbeing, which is part of the small business support program that has been implemented by government. Danny has 12 years of experience in clinical and non-clinical mental health work, and she's worked in adult and aged mental health, homelessness, complex and enduring mental health, forensic, drug and alcohol, and eating disorders in roles including outreach, care coordination, intake and assessment, suicide prevention, and case management. Prior to embarking on a career in mental health, Danielle spent a decade working in the international trade sector as a shipbroker, petrochemicals trader, and an import-export area. I didn't even know that, Danny. That's quite amazing. So you can see that Danny actually brings with her both a business as well as a mental health and well-being knowledge into the role. And as I said, she's just been invaluable in the work and the support that she's provided to us and to our members over the last many months. So Danny, with that, I'd like to turn over to you, and thank you again for sharing this with us today.
Thank you so much, Felicia. I'll just share my screen, everyone. Okay, can everybody see that? Yep. Okay, so welcome to this session on Back to Work Wellbeing, taking care of ourselves in a new COVID normal workplace. My name is Danny and I'm the Workplace Wellbeing Consultant with VTIC for the Partners in Wellbeing program. And I provide confidential workplace wellbeing consultations and support to small business owners, their family members and staff. I also facilitate workshops and training on mental health in the workplace and can refer business owners into the free financial counselling and business advisor support services on offer as part of the Partners in Wellbeing program. So today we're going to be talking about statistics and return on investment for businesses when they invest in mentally healthy workplaces. Emerging from lockdown, challenges of reopening on wellbeing. How to manage challenging interactions and de-escalate an angry or emotional person. Offering support to others by using wellbeing check-ins. The wellbeing of younger workers. Strategies for dealing effectively with stress. Tips to reintegrate post-lockdown. And taking care of your wellbeing. So before we get into things, I just want to show you some statistics here on the screen because they tell us a story of why mental health in the workplace is important. The statistics presented on this slide are from Beyond Blue and WorkSafe Australia. And it is estimated that 45% of Australians will experience a mental health condition in their lifetime, the most common being anxiety and depression. Although anxiety and depression can be as debilitating as a serious physical illness, less than half of the people experiencing these conditions will seek help. Anxiety and depression tend to affect people during their prime working years. I'm now going to play you this short 2-minute video from PwC Mentally Healthy Workplace Productivity Report by Heads Up, which talks to the cost of mental health to Australian businesses every year and the benefits and return on investment businesses gain from investing in mental health initiatives in the workplace.
Welcome to Heads Up. Mental health in the workplace is one of the most important issues businesses face today. A recent PricewaterhouseCoopers report identified that ignoring it costs Australian businesses around $10.9 billion a year in lost productivity. And with poor mental health likely to affect 1 in 5 employees, by taking action, the benefits can be profound. PwC discovered that on average across all businesses, for every $1 invested in mental health initiatives, there's a return of $2.30. And the report showed that in many industries, the returns are even greater. For example, for every $1 invested in public administration and the safety industry, there's a return of $5.70. With the same return for every dollar invested in the electricity, gas, water and waste services industries, and within the mining sector. And the numbers are compelling within other sectors, such as information media and telecommunications, healthcare and social assistance, manufacturing, and financial and insurance services. The benefits are clear. Business leaders need to make a long-term commitment to a mentally healthy workplace. This will help create happier employees and attract and retain top talent. To learn more, go to headsup.org.au, where you can also download the PricewaterhouseCoopers report. By taking the initiative, you'll not only make your company a better place to work, you can help make it more productive. And that's just good business.
So now let's move on to reopening and how to navigate the transition and take care of ourselves in this new COVID normal environment. Tamara Cabinet is a clinical psychologist and head of the Australian Psychological Society. And she says, although Victorians have been in and out of lockdowns multiple times, this one will be radically different and people need to be mentally prepared for shock and potential conflict with others. She says, "We've never done this before. We have never emerged from a lockdown where we have actually had to consider coming out into an environment of risk. Basically, we're having to come to terms with living with daily case numbers, living with some form of mask wearing or rules or restrictions, and vaccine requirements to do many things. So this is completely a different environment and different experience that we've ever had." She goes on to say that being aware of the challenges of reintegration before it begins is important for people's abilities to cope. Now, emerging from lockdown, what are some of the challenges around reopening on wellbeing? As many are excited and welcome the easing of restrictions and business reopening under the state government's roadmap, for others, the return to normal is a cause for worry and anxiety. We are seeing a rise in the rates of people experiencing social anxiety in particular. An example is anxiety about going back into the public and back to work and worrying about an outside perception of you that you don't worry about when you're at home and in an oversized t-shirt. There is also anxiety after so long in lockdown to not wanting to miss out on opportunities to work and to be social, but worrying about what to talk about, how to have conversations with colleagues and friends, etc., as habits of sociability may have deteriorated over lockdowns, causing people to lack the usual confidence to mix with others. Some people have described feelings of dread and overwhelm the moment reopening dates were revealed. Some people might experience feelings around the pressure of needing to be social to reclaim that time lost in lockdown. There can also be fears that it will be a struggle to get back into the rhythm of work and being social. Some people may be nervous about unlearning the routine of lockdown and experience anxiety around leaving it. And you might experience the feeling like you're having to relearn how to exist in a work environment, be comfortable among a crowd on public transport, and just to talk to people again. There is a level of anxiety that comes into play when reintegrating back into society and work after lockdown, and learning boundaries and keeping them in place, especially in terms of having to learn to say no. Some people describe feelings of uncertainty that the state may be hit in the future by another sudden lockdown. They describe it as feeling like there's a cloud hanging over them, and at any second a storm can come down and take everything from them again. And mental health experts have said the feelings of unease at resuming faster paced, busier lives will be common. So how to prepare mentally for reopening in the new COVID environment? We may be slowly getting back to normal as restrictions ease, but it will be a new normal for many small businesses, one that's likely to exist for some time. And so simply acknowledging that this isn't going to be business as usual and recognising that it's okay if it's a source of stress is a good place to start. Maybe spend some time with your staff and team members, imagining and thinking about what it might be like for your business in the weeks and months ahead, and plan for different situations and scenarios. It's a technique that can help you gain a sense of power and a feeling of calm about something which to a large extent is beyond your control. And you might have to have tough conversations or be ready to assert yourself around compliance with the new safety measures and dealing with difficult customers. And planning and practicing for this with your team can be really valuable. So talking about preparing to have tough conversations, I'm going to take you through how to manage challenging interactions and de-escalate an angry or emotional person. Being able to manage these conversations will help you to look after yourself at work. There's a lot of anxiety at the moment around enforcing vaccination, infection control, and social distancing health directives and interactions with people who may become angry or emotional when you are enforcing the COVID safe rules and restrictions. So let's go through the steps. Step 1, validate how the person is feeling. This is about recognition. It's not agreeing with them. It's just identifying their strong emotion and validating it. It's important to highlight that this step may take time. You have not validated a person until they feel validated. So saying, I can see that you're really angry right now, might not be enough for them to be validated. You might need to continue to offer them validating comments in a calm tone until you notice a shift in their demeanour, from visible agitation to relief at being heard. How a person behaves and how they feel are two completely different things. A person's actions might be right or wrong, but no one is right or wrong with how they feel. It's important to note that you don't have to agree with a person or their behaviour to validate how they are feeling. It's merely about acknowledging that they have strong feelings and highlighting that you can see it and their feeling is valid, no matter how rational or irrational it might seem to you. Step 2 is don't make it about you. Remain calm, don't take on their anger, and don't take it personally. Other people's anger, even if it is directed at you, is not about you. It is about them and about how they are feeling. Their anger is about their view of the situation. Even if the person's anger or other heightened emotion is directed at you, try not to take it personally and most of all, remain calm. Step 3, help the person to find options. A person who is out of control still has choices around how he or she chooses to act. Help them to explore what their options are. An example is, now you have an option here. You can keep doing what you are doing, but there will be consequences, such as you'll be banned from the establishment, or you can choose to call it a night and go home, or you can walk away now, no hard feelings, and try to enjoy the rest of your night. Step 4, allow for choice. People always have a choice in everything that they do. Do not tell them what to do at this point. It is important for you to recognise their freedom of choice. Having autonomy to decide what to do can help to de-escalate their fight or flight response. This can help them to feel emotionally safe enough to identify that they have potentially overacted and for them to back down without losing face. And this step is really crucial. It is important that you do not take the person's autonomy away. People have the right to choose what they do, and if you force their hand at some point, you could escalate them again. So by giving the person the opportunity to decide how they respond, you can help to reduce their fight or flight response. Because often this fight or flight response is triggered because the person feels like their choices have been taken away from them and they feel backed into a corner. Step 5, control your emotions. Humans naturally pick up on other people's emotions and mirror these. Don't let your ego or emotions control your response. You do not have to prove you are right. Again, don't take things personally. Don't use extreme language such as never, always, can't stand it. Extreme language will feed extreme feelings like anger. Be mindful about how your body is feeling and recognize that the anger is not, in fact, your anger, but it is a projection of the person in front of you. Don't feel the need to be right. If a person is disagreeing with you or spouting something that you do not agree with, you do not need to argue the point. Just recognize it and resist the urge to argue your point, just to win. Again, do not take things personally. In the case of a customer, they most likely do not know you. Therefore, how can their anger be personal? It is not about you, it is about them. Be mindful of how you are feeling physically and ask yourself, could your irritation or anger be stemming from something else? Is it possible your reaction doesn't match the situation? Are you hungry, overtired, stressed out, or do you have a headache? And maybe more irritable because of that. So when you've had a challenging interaction, we want to be able to check in with people and offer support to others, whether it's our staff or our co-workers. And regular wellbeing check-ins are an important part of a mentally healthy workplace. And we all play a role in fostering and maintaining a supportive work environment. And wellbeing check-ins are especially important after any incidents or conflicts in the workplace, such as after having a difficult conversation or challenging encounter with a customer, member of the public, or another team member. And a wellbeing check-in can be as easy as asking the person, "Are you okay?" So let's go through how to offer support to others by using the Are You Okay? Simple 4-step conversation guide. Number 1, ask, "Are you okay?" And be relaxed and friendly and concerned in your approach. Help them open up by asking questions like, "How are you going?" or "What's been happening?" Or after a difficult conversation or conflict, saying, "I notice you seem upset after that difficult interaction. How are you traveling?" Mention specific things that you have, mention specific things that have made you concerned for them. So something like, "You seem less chatty than usual. How are you going?" If they don't want to talk, you could say, "Please call me or come back to me if you ever want to chat." Or, "Is there someone else you'd rather talk to?" Step 2, listen with an open mind. Take what they say seriously and don't interrupt or rush the conversation. Don't judge their experiences or reactions, but acknowledge that things seem tough for them. If they need time to think, sit patiently with the silence. Encourage them to explain by asking them, "How are you feeling about that?" or "How long have you felt that way?" Show that you've listened by repeating back what you've heard in your own words and ask if you have understood them properly. Step 3, encourage action. Ask, "How would you like me to support you?" And ask, "What's something you can do for yourself right now?" Something that's enjoyable or relaxing. If possible, invite the person to take a short break from work, go for a cup or take a few minutes to regather thoughts and calm their emotions. You could say, "When I was going through a difficult time or felt distressed after a challenging interaction with a customer, I tried this." You might find it useful too. If they've been feeling really down or anxious for more than 2 weeks, encourage them to see a GP for a mental health check. You could say, "It might be useful for you to link in with someone who can support you. I'm happy to assist you to find the right person to talk to." And be positive about the role of professionals in getting through tough times. And step 4 is checking in. Pop a reminder in your diary to call or catch up with a person in a couple of weeks or days if it's been something more serious. If they're really struggling, follow up with them sooner, even at the end of the workday or shift. You could say, "I've been thinking of you and wanted to know how you've been going since we chatted." Stay in touch and be there for them. Genuine care and concern can make a real difference. So when it comes to the wellbeing of younger workers, your staff and your co-workers, it is essential to have supports in place and foster an environment where young workers can feel safe to be able to talk about their struggles with someone at work. And offering regular wellbeing check-ins and one-on-one meetings with all staff, but especially younger workers, to ask them, "Are you okay?" is recommended, along with having information about mental health and wellbeing available to them in the workplace, and developing personal wellbeing plans will help support them. Research has found that over the last decade, workers under the age of 25 have begun reporting worse mental health symptoms, and this has spiked during the COVID-19 period for those aged 18 to 34. In the last 2 years, the difference we've seen in the mental health of young people in the workforce is striking. Around 15% were reporting high levels of psychological distress in 2017, and that figure has doubled to 30% during the pandemic, says Dr. Andrew Arena, a postdoctoral research fellow at the Black Dog Institute. So I'm going to play you this short 4-minute video by Australia's Youth Mental Health Service Headspace on how to have a supportive conversation inquiring about a young worker's mental health. If you've noticed changes that suggest a young worker may be struggling with their mental health, it might be time to have a conversation with them. And when you're listening to this, it is applied for younger workers, but it can be used with any worker or any colleague.
It's beneficial to check in with a young person about their mental health, as it can ensure that stress is addressed early before it spirals out of control.
But as an employer, you also have responsibilities to specifically around work and safety to make sure your employees are safe, and that includes their mental health as part of that. So there is a responsibility there to ensure that you can ask questions.
As a peer worker, conversations about our wellbeing was an everyday conversation, and it became very ingrained in us to look after ourselves and know that our health is the priority. And we were always told that if we needed to take a day off, we needed to say no to a shift, that was the most important thing, and it was okay to do so.
It can be tricky talking about mental health, so sometimes it can be useful to have a bit of a script to start yourself off. So you might say, oh, I've noticed that this is happening, or I've noticed that maybe you're not travelling so well, or you've been late a lot this week, is everything okay? Or those sorts of things. Coming into the conversation in a supportive and helpful way is a useful one, rather than a telling people off kind of way. So that's a good way to start.
Some of the questions that I've planned before I have reached out to talk to a younger worker in regards to their mental health and wellbeing would be questions around, have there been changes in your life in terms of, your living arrangements, or relationship with your parents, or with your peers, or with your friends. Other questions would be around, is there things that we can offer in terms of help to assist you get some further help from professionals in terms of, GPs, psychologists, organisations like Headspace, that sort of thing.
If an employer wants to check that a young person's okay, first up they could choose a time that's appropriate, when there's some privacy, or perhaps when there's not many colleagues around. And it could be as simple as starting with, hey, I've noticed that, or I just wanted to check in if everything's okay.
It can be a scary conversation to have when you're checking on your workers' mental health and wellbeing. We start thinking as employers, oh, what's this going to do to the business? What is this going to cause? But in actual fact, checking in and making a proactive plan to help your young worker benefits the company and the business as a whole.
Well, first of all, the young person has told you something, and so that's great. So that means they trust you. Responding in an appropriate way, in a calm and supportive way, is really important. And they'll get back to you when they're ready to disclose some more. And it may be that the environment they're in at that time, they can't talk more, there may be other people around, or they may not feel comfortable in talking at that time. That's okay. There's also an opportunity to normalise help seeking for young people by talking about the supports in their life. So that's an important thing as well.
Well, it demonstrates to the young person that there is a person that cares for their well-being, and they see them past as a staff member, but rather as a person. And it also provides a platform for the young person to talk to someone about their mental health. They may feel that they have no one else to turn to, and if the employer is willing to provide that space for them, it can only be beneficial for both the employer as well as the young person.
So taking care of your wellbeing starts with an awareness around your self-care. And these questions that are up on the screen can be used to help create a personal wellbeing plan for yourself, or use with a staff member or team member. So you want to ask, what can I do right now that will help me in this moment? What can I control? What's most important for me to focus on right now? What small step can I take today to improve my wellbeing? What is giving energy to me? What can I let go of? What am I grateful for? And who can I help? And by answering these simple questions and acting on them, you will be improving your sense of wellbeing at work, and with the transition to living our lives in this new COVID normal world. And strategies for dealing effectively with stress. As our economy reopens, some businesses will face pressures such as understaffing issues and staff having to work longer hours. Stress and energy management will be key to maintaining wellbeing and getting through this transition period. It's important to remember that stress is more than just feeling overworked. At times, we become so accustomed to feeling high levels of stress, we are often unaware of or may not even know what it feels like to be relaxed. So it is helpful to develop a range of responses to stress. And luckily, there are some tried and true strategies for dealing effectively with the stress that shows up in our lives. One is recharge activities. When we get stressed and we're maybe working too hard or too much or long hours, we often stop making time for things that are nourishing, satisfying, and refreshing to do. Examples of recharge activities could be practicing meditation or deep breathing, or going for a walk to unwind, taking a hot bath at the end of the long day, enjoying a healthy meal, or just talking with a friend. Number two, daily routines. The human mind likes predictability and certainty. When life gets stressful and chaotic, we can restore some order to the chaos by ensuring that we continue with simple daily routines. And number three, circles of concern and influence. So the problems, issues, and difficulties we face generally fall into two circles. The circle of concern contains things over which you have little direct control, and the circle of influence, which contains those concerns that you can actually do something about. Focus on making changes in this circle. And four, practice reality checks. Stress has a large thinking component to it, and certain types of thinking are likely to trigger stress and or make your stress worse. For example, catastrophizing or all or nothing thinking or black and white thinking or overgeneralizing are just some of the few unhelpful thinking patterns that can cause additional stress and anxiety. Thought challenging is a useful strategy to ensure the way you are thinking about a situation, be it work or personal, is more balanced, realistic, and helpful. And lastly, to wrap things up, when it comes to supporting your wellbeing as we reopen, here are a few tips and things to be aware of to help you reintegrate post-lockdown. Beware of doing many things too quickly. You might end up being overstimulated. Expect a honeymoon phase, followed by a dip in energy before finding a new normal. Consider other people's boundaries when making plans. Not everyone will feel comfortable meeting in groups or indoors yet. Don't abandon the productive habits you've picked up in lockdown altogether. And talk about your experience and feelings with others. Everyone will be having a reaction of some type, and it's normal. And seek out formal advice on how to navigate difficult conversations with others, example, with customers, members of the public, staff, colleagues, friends, or family. And I'll leave you today with this quote from an article published on the conversation.com news site. While there are uncertainties about our future, there is one thing we can be certain of. The higher our fully vaccinated coverage goes above 80%, the easier it will be to control COVID, enabling a return to a COVID normal life. And lastly, I just want to promote the Partners in Wellbeing service. Partners in Wellbeing program and Helpline is a confidential one-on-one service providing support for small business owners, their family members and employees through trained wellbeing coaches, financial counsellors and business advisors. It's free and there for you 7 days a week. And the Partners in Wellbeing helpline number is 1300 375 330. The helpline's open Monday to Friday, 9 till 10 p.m. and weekends it's open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And for more information on the program and for real-time web chat with a trained professional, you can go to the Partners in Wellbeing website and the information is on the screen. And lastly, for VTIC members, we have dedicated wellbeing support, which is offered through myself. And I work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. And outside of those hours, members can also access the helpline. And my phone number and email address is up on the screen. So thank you for the time today and listening to this session on Back to Work Wellbeing, taking care of ourselves in a new COVID normal workplace. And I just lastly, before we finish up, I've just created this, my first QR code. If people can scan that, and there's a short, there's just a 5-question survey. If you have time to do that, we'd really appreciate it. So thank you so much. That's all.
Thank you, Danny. Some really, really important information in there. I mean, it's interesting as I listen to this. You know, as much as we might think we're all fine, there's some amazing tips in there just about looking after yourself. And I think importantly also that it's okay to kind of not feel okay about getting out there and being active straight away. And, you know, there is a lot of anxiety. And certainly this last lockdown, as you said in the beginning, I think has impacted people so differently from the 5 prior ones. So, you know, the sort of coming out process, if you will be harder and more challenging.
Yes, that re-entry process. And that's why if anyone's listening, or if you have staff members that are struggling with that, you can say Danny's available, you can give her a call or send her an email. We can work through some of that on a one-on-one basis. And also we touched on the wellbeing check-ins. And on the Mental Health and Wellbeing Hub, the industry support hub that VTIC has, there is some personal wellbeing plan templates, and there's workplace wellbeing plan templates on there. You can have a look at that. You can use those within your workplaces, or if you'd like me to help you to support develop some of those, I'm happy to do that. And also we sort of had a bit of a chat, Felicia and I, about, you know, if businesses are facing potentially having to let people go because they're not vaccinated, there's a really good little workshop that I've recorded, which is also on the hub under Mental Health and Wellbeing and Workshops, and it's called Supporting Staff Through Job Loss and Redundancy. And it's about how to do that in a supportive way, and what to do with regards to wellbeing and some other things in there that will help if you do need to unfortunately let someone go because then they're not going to proceed with vaccination. So there's a lot of other good workshops that people can listen to, and lots of guides and resources that are on the hub, but also I'm able to talk you through them if you like as well.
Thanks, Danny. And I think, you know, look, I think the important message here is that we're all struggling with this, you know, in our own ways. Everyone's finding this really challenging. So, you know, having these different channels that you can reach out to, you know, most importantly, and Danny has mentioned about going to the VTIC support hub. If you haven't visited, what we'll do, can I ask one of the team, sorry, because I never get the address exactly right. I know that the team's on the line here. Could someone post in the chat the direct link into the support hub for those who may not have accessed it yet? I don't want to give the wrong address out because I always mix it up when I quote it. There it is. Thank you, Meg. So it's hub.vtic.com.au. So just repeating, that's hub.vtic.com.au. That part of our website is actually open to everyone. So whether you're a member of VTIC or not a member of VTIC, you can actually go into that support hub, and there is a plethora of information in there around not just restrictions and obligations and requirements, but Danny has been incredibly diligent about putting a lot of information in there around mental health and well-being. And there is now a segment which is dedicated exclusively to the reopening process, and all of the webinars that we've been conducting over the last several days, all of those are actually in that reopening segment of the hub as well. Danny, there is a question someone posted a bit earlier while you were speaking, and you talked about giving people choice and options, which, you know, as it relates to employees, I think we can understand. But the question here from Steph has been around, can you give an example of giving choice to someone as a guest who you may have to refuse entry to due to their vaccination status?
Yeah,
it's a tricky one, and it's a little bit different from the direction that I think you were probably speaking.
Yeah, it is a tricky one, and you know, this is something you're all facing at the moment. But I think that the choice, and it goes back to validating sort of how they're feeling more so. Like, that is their choice. But unfortunately, if that is your choice to not be vaccinated, you know, we're not able to we're not able to let you in or to serve you because, and you go back to the government guidelines. And yes, they're going to get heated, and it can become an emotional thing, but that's when you use, it's really important because we have what's called mirror neurons. So it's like if somebody yawns, you yawn, or if you walk into a room and you feel the tension, that's what your mirror neurons are. And I think what we're getting at is that validating somebody, but making them calm and using your body language and calm body. So you're not escalating, you don't get tense, and then they get tenser, and it escalates and it escalates. So it's about making sure they're heard. We understand that's your stance, and it is your right not to be vaccinated, but unfortunately, the choices that you have at the moment are limited. But it's around choice to be, I think, emotional and angry and let something get out of control, or choice to remain calm and walk away. It's not so much the choice that I still have the choice to come in, because that's not the case. So it's just about, I think, validating, yes, I can hear that that's your concern, but at the moment, because of the guidelines, because we've got to follow those COVID safe guidelines from the government, your choice at the moment is try to just walk away. And yeah, it's a hard one, but I think it's all about what I was trying to get to is so employees and staff don't take that on, because that can actually really negatively affect their well-being. So how do we, at the end of that interaction, how do we manage that staff member or employee? Because that can really lead to burnout and a lot of high levels of stress. So it's around teaching your staff and that around remaining calm, body language. It's not about you, it's about them. And yes, it is limited choice, but the choice is, how do I react to that situation?
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think it was interesting, just for those on the call who might be from certain kinds of businesses that this will, definitively impact. We had a couple of sessions over the last 2 days. One of those was with Alan Briggs on dealing with difficult circumstances like this. And yesterday, in the one that we did with Visit Victoria, we had Natalie Pizzini here from Pizzini Wines in the King Valley. And it was really interesting because Natalie hadn't heard anything of what Alan said, but what Alan was talking about was trying to, as much as possible, get to people before they lob at your front desk or at the door to your establishment. So if you are in a situation where you are able to communicate because the customer has a booking with you, make sure that you let them know ahead of time, these are the rules. Here's what we need to do in order to comply with the current government regulations. All of our visitors are required to be fully vaccinated. And it was interesting because Pizzini's is actually doing some of this stuff. So before people get to their winery, they've actually created some signage along the route to talk about what to expect when you get there and how things will be managed and the fact that you need to be vaccinated. And it was really all about making sure that you have touch points with the customer before they're actually standing right in front of you. And then that way it can hopefully, try to diffuse some of these situations.
Yes.
So that there is another question, a couple questions. Number one, also too, are we able to share your slides, Danny?
Yes.
There's a couple questions here in the chat wanting to know because they'll find it useful.
Yes, and also it's available on the hub under workshops. So I've recorded this whole workshop and it's on the hub as well.
Great, thanks, Danny. So again, pushing everyone back to that hub. But what we will do, because these sessions are recorded, everyone on the line will get a link to the recording, but we'll also make sure that we send you Danny's presentation as well, so that you can actually have that and use that internally in your business. This is probably more of a comment, I guess, for people on the line more than it is for a question, Danny, but Jane has given a nice little tip. We're handing out small freebies to people who have to be turned away due to only having had one vaccine dose, and saying, we hope to see you soon. And so far it's been incredibly well received. Obviously we can't do this for people who refuse to get vaccinated, but obviously a nice little touch that they've done for those people who are just a little bit shy of getting that second dose. And Jane's awesome. Just clarified, freebies equals vouchers. So just a really, really nice comment there. And it was interesting because we spoke to as well a number of businesses who were involved in the regional trials. And while things were a little bit slow as everyone got used to the whole showing my vaccination certificate and loading it into the MyGov and all the other bits and bobs, I think it was someone at the it was the Gippsland Art Gallery. They were handing out lollies and things while people were waiting in the queue, just trying to diffuse, again, some of that frustration that exists. So
Right.
it's a tricky one. And I think, as you talked about, Danny, we're all learning here. No one's got all the answers to this.
That's right. And as we re-enter and we reintegrate, everybody's going to be doing it at different stages. But that's why also with your family, with your colleagues, with your staff, talk about this, talk about these feelings and what we're going through. Really helps.
Yeah, most definitely. Well, we don't have any further questions here. So, Danny, can I just first of all say thank you so much? And I know I said this in the beginning, but it's been an absolute joy having Danny as part of our team, and to be able to rely on someone with her experience we've found really invaluable as we've all ridden the Corona coaster, as we now lovingly refer to it. But I would encourage you, as Danny said, please go into that hub. Please make sure that you're accessing all the resources that we have. If you are a VTIC member, you will be getting a lot of this information that we try to send out to you and things that we do in our communications that we send. So hopefully you're getting a lot of tips and a lot of support at a time when we all know you really need it. We might just go through quickly what's next on the agenda, because we do have one more program to run tomorrow in our reopening series. This one is actually really, really important, and I would encourage you, for those still on the line, to think about attending tomorrow. We're actually doing a 2-hour workshop with Alan Briggs. Alan conducted our session the other day on managing difficult circumstances and customers in your business. We're also going to be doing a segment on what to do if there's a confirmed COVID outbreak in your business. Now, this has become really critical because the rules are changing. We're no longer going to get notification necessarily from DHHS, and the systems and processes of how this is managed within an individual business is changing as we speak. It's one of the reasons why we've chosen to make this session the last one on Friday, because we want to make sure that we're delivering the most up-to-date information in terms of how you will manage this process, because it's inevitable that this will start to happen. We're already seeing it happening. We've had communication from a couple of our members over the last couple of days where this has happened in their business. So we can't fool ourselves that this is going to be for someone else to deal with. So I think it will be really important if you can take some time tomorrow and be part of this session. I think it will be really important. And again, as I've noted, all of our webinars will all be collected and displayed within the support hub, so people will be able to refer back to them. But I think being on the call for this one tomorrow is going to be really, really important. So if you can take the time to join us, that would be fantastic to see you. And I guess with that, can I just thank you all for coming online with us today. But again, Danny, thank you so much. You're always so giving in what you share, and the information is always so accessible, but most importantly, you always make yourself so accessible, and that's lovely, because right now I think we all need that.
Thanks so much, Felicia.
All right, everyone, have a good rest of the day, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing many of you here tomorrow as well. Thank you, and thanks again, Danny.
Thank you. Bye-bye.